Oh my goodness. All right, folks. Good morning to everybody here. I'm going to try and slide this way just a little so I don't angle myself. I found that in some of my other videos. I was like, I got a half shot every time. Okay, so we've got several people online. I guess people want a little compliance update after I sent out yesterday's email. Let me hide this. And so I can see the whole screen here. Okay, well, happy St. Patty's Day, I guess is how I should start the morning, right? All right, so it is March 17th, and yes, we are going to go over some compliance issues here. Several things have changed, and so I'm going to try to address some of these, hopefully be able to answer your questions. Those of you online, I have a feeling I'm going to end early enough that we'll have time to answer any questions at the end, but I will ask as I go through each section if you do have some questions. So again, as I said, we're going to talk about compliance updates. I am hoping all of you got my email yesterday that talked about an ABA disclosure on our listings. This is something that we kind of have thought about in the past. We've talked about it, and I know I've communicated you need to send this on, but now you must send this on. So this is a commissioner's instructions to do this. And oh, by the way, you'll be needing it for your buyers before you write an offer. You should be looking for the disclosure from the other side, right? If I'm telling you you can't receive an offer until they've gotten your disclosure, guess what? You better be watching for what's coming your way to give to your clients as well, okay? So we're not going to go into that today. We're going to talk about something that Realty One Group did. This is possibly different than any other company. The ruling is, and we'll get to this in just a second, but the ruling is that the disclosure of your affiliated business arrangement must be given to the buyer prior to their writing an offer, which I don't know about you. I thought about that. Like, how do we even know somebody's going to write an offer on a property until oftentimes we've received the offer, right? Now, of course, we possibly could send over, when we get a request for showing, we could always shoot it over at that point, right? Oh, look, they're seeing our property. Now, that would be very labor intensive for all of us, especially for folks that have a lot of properties and a lot of calls that may come in to show those properties, but that really doesn't cover everybody because we all know we get those offers sight unseen, right? So they certainly don't have it. So Realty One Group took the step to go to ARMLS and ask for us to be able to put our ABA, which has been modified. Okay, please know that there's a different one. That's why there's a new one in your private docs. Okay, so we're putting it in the MLS because typically people look for the property in the MLS. Okay. Now, technically, according to the commissioner, that is not disclosure, right? Our spuds are there. That's not considered delivery, right? So we are asking them, and you'll see the private remarks should say required offers must include the disclosure form found in private documents tab, right? Because we haven't delivered it. But if they return it to us, guess what? They got it. Okay. Now, is it technically required we're not going to receive the contract? Of course not. We've received the contract already. But according to the commissioner, the buyer had to have received that ABA prior to writing the contract. And if they send it over with that, no initials, you'll see no initials, no signatures, nothing. But if they send it with their contract, even if the buyer didn't see it, their agent sure as heck did, which equals what? Delivery. It's delivery. If you as an agent receive something, your client has received it, which on the other side of this, flip this over. If you receive one of these, you better be shipping it off to your clients and say, got this, wanted to convey it. Boom, got it, right? because you're going to get a lot of these. Yesterday, before we even got this out, Wendy Shaw from the Shaw Group came over and said, what is going on? I've just gotten 2 calls that I had to sign up. You know, they want my clients to sign this. She was already under contract. Like, sorry, the point is it's prior to actually writing an offer, not after you've gone under contract. So a lot of companies are straggling and coming up later going, wait, you got to sign this. Well, that's actually not what the ruling is. The ruling is prior to, okay? So you'll see private remarks, you need to add that. So step 1 is upload the MLS approved ABA disclosure. We're actually calling it MLS only, which is not exactly correct, because let me make it clear. If you do not have a listing in the MLS, this still applies. The only reason we're saying MLS only is because that document has been approved by AIR MLS that we can put it in the Docs tab, right? And it must be under private in the Docs tab. Does anybody know why? So the public can't see it, but why can't the public see it in general? What does it have on there that can't be visible? Like, we can't put open house, right? Because it's got contact, you know, I think we stripped the contact information, right? But it has Realty One Group AZ. Obviously, that's in the listing, but that's why it, you know, and it's got numbers in it. So you're going to upload this MLS only ABA disclosure, and you're going to add this language in your private remarks. Offers must include the disclosure form found in private documents tab. Okay. So I can't, hopefully this will disappear. Remove this. Okay. If you have an active listing in the MLS, you must add the new MLS only ABA to the Docs tab to ensure brokerage and MLS compliance. The MLS only ABA disclosure without signatures, right? This is, your client does not sign this, must be uploaded to your listing in the MLS private documents tab. This is the brokerage disclosure form only. Do not upload the version your client has signed. Please do not use that version, okay? It is the MLS only unsigned ABA form that can be found in SkySlope under private office docs. MLS only ABA disclosure. Oh, yeah. I'm using both of them. I'm sorry. So they need a power, or you might go behind you. This one. Okay. So again, I've kind of explained those. Those are the required steps. Somebody called me yesterday and asked if they needed to have their client sign a sold change form on all these. Like, we have 1,500 active listings, folks. No, you do not. You do not have to go to your client and have them sign off. This is a commissioner change and is not actually affecting our sellers. It is a disclosure to the other side. And no, you don't need to change that it's in private remarks. It's fine. We're doing the change because the commissioner said we as real estate professionals need to make this change. All right. So this is what the new document says. You'll see there's a little cover page. It says important notice to buyers. Please upload that page too, folks. Don't throw that out because it's not one of the 2 pages, right? Now, it's very nice because guess what? We've quoted the actual AAC. Does anybody know what AAC stands? Administrative Code. There you go. R428-1101A and R428-1101E4. And then it says, please include a copy of this document with your offer to acknowledge receipt, right? We want to know that you got this. So you might add to your conversation when somebody's calling on the property, hey, by the way, did you pull that document down in the Docs tab? Because if you're writing an offer, we'll need you to include that, please. Your client doesn't need to sign it. And in fact, it says that. But let me show you what Article 11, R428-1101 says. The licensee owes a fiduciary duty to the client and shall protect and promote the client's interests. Somebody's got their mic open. If you could please mute yourself, that would be great. The licensee shall also deal fairly with all other parties to a transaction. It's that second sentence that is applicable here, right? We're dealing with the other party, making sure they understand our affiliated business arrangements, okay? Because it's not really the client's affiliated business arrangements, it's ours. They need to know who we are related to, right? Related to, owned by, associated with. Or if you've seen the ruling that I sent on Sunday about the agent that had a nice $95,000 fine and a 2-year suspension, that she had an LLC she belonged to and didn't tell anybody that she belonged to the LLC and was getting money on the other side of that deal, right? Disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. So that's the 1101. The E4 says a licensee shall not act directly or indirectly in a transaction without informing the other parties in the transaction in writing and before the parties enter any binding agreement of a present or prospective interest or conflict in the transaction, including that the licensee or a member of the licensee's immediate family has a financial interest in the transaction other than the licensee's receipt of compensation for real estate services. So when it's saying licensee, right, I know it says immediate family, but it's also the brokerage, right? So if Realty One Group also owns, or the owner of Realty One Group also owns Rock Title, and the other side doesn't know that relationship, then we're not treating them, with fairly, that there is a potential financial situation here. Now, obviously, you and I are not receiving anything for that, but the ownership is, because they own both companies, okay? So that's why this became such an important issue. And I believe it became such an important issue because of situations like that agent who was a part of an LLC that owned a title company. And that title company, they disclosed that XYZ LLC was getting money, but nobody said, oh, look, and by the way, your realtor owns that LLC. Because who goes through and double checks who's on the corporation commission for all those LLCs? How many times do we see LLC, LLC, LLC? Oh, who owns that? So, by the way, if any of you own LLCs and have any of these relationships, you better have your own ABA. If you are sending stuff out to XYZ Title and you have an ownership in XYZ Title, you are responsible for passing that information on prior to them writing an offer. Okay? So let's look at the document. It's going to look, honestly, I couldn't find the differences. I need to ask. All it looks like they did is change the font size of some of this. And I'm not quite sure why. So it looks pretty clean. They may have removed addresses. I'm not positive. So pretty much looks almost identical. It's talking about Rock Title, right? Owner and or, all the policy that the charges. And again, why can we put these here? These are published fees. These do not change. All title companies have to publish their rates to the Department of Financial Institution. Department of Financial Institution. So, when people say we'll get you a deal, well, whatever deal they're getting you is already printed. It has to be disclosed. Again, if somebody check your mics, because somebody's got a live mic there. Okay, so obviously One Home Warranty, that's the name One Home Warranty, right? We all know that's American Home Shield, but under the One Home Warranty name, there must be some deal with our ownership that they get some portion of those proceeds. I don't know how exactly that works, but obviously that's there and we have to disclose that. EVO Home Loans, which we know by Epic, which is a partnership, I think we'll see on the next page, partnership between Cuba and CMG. And then One Asset Exchange is a 1031 exchange service. Actually, there you'll see that it's the branding name. The plans are issued by American Home Shield. And that, of course, we're not making any warranties about work issued by American Home Shield. So, and then the 1031 exchange is actually owned by, it's actually provided by asset exchange companies. So, Here you go. You get some other marketing arrangements. So this is how we have a relationship with Old Republic Home Protection. And then Move Easy, which you've seen as Live Easy. Now it's Move Easy. And then there's an insurance company if anybody's looking for insurance as well. You will see the sub-agency here. How many understood that when we opened up Realty One Group AZ, which actually has been around actually since I joined in 2008, but they reinvigorated it, if you want, when all this happened for the non-MLS option. So we actually have two companies that work side by side, okay? They technically have two different designated brokers, which is why we actually have to refer to the sub-agency because there are two DBs. And that we do work together. That's why anyone that goes to the non-MLS or the referral only program from my office continue to operate out of this office, even though I'm not an employee of Realty One Group AZ. I'm an employee of Realty One Group. So we do have to notify that sub-agency, and we do, I think we do the limited representation is what we do for those because we are working collaboratively together. Okay. Now the acknowledgement here is for our clients. And then you will notice there are no signature lines. It's been removed and this is literally highlighted at the bottom. Signatures are not required for non-ROG, ROG AZ clients. This is for disclosure only. Okay. These 3 pages are the pages you need to upload under private documents. Let's see. I think that's all I have there. So I'm going to stop for a second. Got a lot of open eyes around the room. I think it's pretty simple, but I just wanted to explain it. Does anybody have any questions online? You can unmute and ask your questions.
Would it be
Oh,
how we prove that they actually received it? I mean, I know they have to acknowledge in writing, either through an email or that they opened it. Don't they have to initial it that they just
Nope.
received it?
Nope, they don't.
So
Now you will be.
It's a required document.
Well, if it's on your listing and loaded into your doc tab and they send it to you with the offer, you have delivery because it was received back. So it'll have hopefully it'll have either the DocuSign or you can put the email cover letter that this was received back. That's fine. And there will be a spot to put that. So the question was, how do you prove, receipt? Now, we've already had other companies request that our clients sign their ABAs. Please do not have your client sign an ABA for some other company. They are not clients of that company. Should not be signing it. And I've heard some of them are egregious enough to say that then that company now has the right to access their documents. No, they don't have any rights to our clients at all. If somebody's being overly, you must sign that you received that. In the past, I've actually taken a text box in eSign, AuthentiSign, DocuSign, whatever you use, and stamped received, and then had my client sign under the received, or initialed under the received, because I really don't want to give them a signature. But and that's fine. But I will tell you, the phone calls that came back when we responded to these requests, they said, "Oh, that's all right. We just have to know that you received it." So instead of any of that, the agent just sent a single email saying received your ABA, and that was it. So, I mean, that's fine. You can ask somebody else to send you an email that just says you received it. Again, what does agent receipt mean? Buyers received it. Okay. So to you, I say, please make sure if you've received it, send it to your buyers. Now, the funny part about this, I don't know how many of you've read these. Like, I've read other companies' ABAs, and I kind of am disgusted by some of them, especially with this lawsuit, because I have seen some that say Mark gets 15%, Sam gets 20%. And I'm like, wait a minute, Mark, wait, hold on. They're the agents on this. And I'm serious. I'm seeing that. And I'm like, I don't want my client to go to a title company where the agent on the other side is actively getting money on this deal for it closing at that title company. I'm like, hold on a minute, right? And so yes, it's disclosed, but guess what happens in those scenarios? Anybody ever tried to argue that one? What do you get back? No. You can't change title companies. It has to go to our title company. So you can argue till you're blue in the face. You can explain to your client why you're concerned about it going to that title company. But ultimately, what's the decision the client has to make? Do you want the property or do you not want the property? Right? So as an agent, your job is to explain that. And I would be reading some of these. And if it's like that, I would be explaining it to the client. Say, look, most times when I've tried to fight this, this is what comes back. You know, we can put our foot down. You can end up paying your own title fees, you know, or your own whatever it is that you pay, right? If you fight against the listing agent's company. But ultimately, if there are multiple offers, which we're still seeing, right? What's the buyer's choice? And so I think what's funny here is I don't think this addresses truly helping the consumer. I think the consumer is still stuck, but we'll get our disclosures out there. We'll follow the rules, right? So again, Realty One Group has taken a different stand here. You are going to see every other company roll out with things in the next 2 weeks trying to address this. You know, if you think about it, it's just hard. How do you get it to people before that offer? So we took the step to try to work with ARMLS to be able to put it in that document. Okay. All right. So a lot of you guys probably saw this ADRE progressive disciplinary policy that I also sent out. Lovely little graphic one of our brokers created. And please know this did not come from us. We are following the Arizona Department of Real Estate compliance requirements. And their requirement literally is for a progressive disciplinary policy. Those are their words, right? So, and this is in effect. It is in effect for late paperwork and other things as well. I'm not going to read all the way down here, but you will see that it says the established system is not limited to, but must include a progressive disciplinary policy for managing violations. We did not dream this up, folks. Ron and Pat did not sit back there and go, oh, what should we do now? This was not our idea. This has to do with R428-1103B. And so we created these steps for our systems, right? The first offense is a written warning. The second is notice added to your file. The third is a violation and corrective action. The fourth is mandatory education. And the fifth is $100 fine per occurrence. Okay. These are not coming from the department. These we're having to do ourselves. Just what I wanted to add to my desk. Yay. So the key provisions do allow appeals allowed in writing. Please note termination is possible at any stage. Little fun set in here though. The progressive disciplinary plan, it resets annually. So as of January 1st, it wipes out. We get to start all over again. I thought that was kind of funny. Stay compliant, protect your license. So please don't make me add a lot of work here. But let's talk about this, okay? So it's not just sending forms in. There are other things that will apply to these types of disciplinary actions, including advertising. Advertising has become a big key thing. We talked about it last year as the department was rolling out these things. They said they were going to be watching this very carefully. So I thought I'd spend a little time on advertising, but let me step back. I did not put a slide to this. So currently your ICA, and it still says this, is you have a 72-hour time frame to deliver contracts that have been signed. Can somebody tell me which documents apply to those contracts? What are the actual contracts? Come on, guys. Purchase contract. The, the SCA, no,
addendum, any-
no, purchase contract,
Listing agreement?
listing agreement,
What is it?
what constitutes the contracts that actually require that 72-hour upload. Listing contract, purchase contract, what else is a contract? Buyer broker agreement, right? And a lease agreement, which is the same ER, right? So those are the things that require that immediate 72 hours. Now, if you don't have your, if you don't have your buyer advisory in there within 72 hours of having those other documents, are we going to be upset? No, we'd like it in there, but no, that does not hold a 72-hour requirement. Okay. Agency, I will tell you, if you've signed a buyer broker agreement and you don't have an agency with it, that's a problem because it specifically says you're signing this. And by the way, our agency is represented in another form. And then you sign that form 10 days later. How is that possible? Can somebody tell me that? It specifically says this agency has been addressed. Same thing on the listing contract, right? You sign a listing contract. Where's your agency? It's described in there and says you've agreed to it on this other document. So to me, those documents had better be together. And guess what else has to be with them now? In the
ABA.
same timeframe. The ABA, you're right. Thank you, whoever online said that, right? Your ABA, because if you're not disclosing our information and they're signing a contract with us, we haven't disclosed that before they agreed to work with us. Guess what? That should have been signed before they wrote a contract with you. So your ABA agency and those agreements should all be going hand in hand. Now, buyer advisory, wire fraud, okay, you didn't bring them with you. They needed to rush through. You had them sitting in your briefcase. You got the other things signed and ran home and went, I forgot to grab that other folder. Get it signed and add it later. But the 72 hours are specific for those documents, right? Now, you will not get a flag until it's 10 days late. Why? Does anybody know why? 10 days? Anybody online? Because this is a Department of Real Estate rule, and who do they have the rule over in the Department of Real Estate? Brokerages. Our timing is 10 days. We have to review and sign the document in 10 days. If it's not in our file for us to have reviewed it within 10 days, which is why, by the way, we give you the 72 hours, because we need time for our compliance people to review it. And then for me as a broker to review it as well. Now, our compliance people are brokers, by the way. Cherie, who reviews, she is an associate broker as well. So when she reviews, that technically is stamped, okay? But if I have to review it, that's where the 10 days. So if we don't get it in 10 days, that's where you'll get written up for delivery. So we will still notify you in that 72 hours, but guess what disappeared? Your requirement to send a delay letter. We got rid of that because the department is looking at, 10 days. We're just going to give you a 72-hour warning, but that's not the warning on there. That's not your main warning. Your warning would come if we didn't get it within 10 days. So thankfully, most of you get paperwork in within 72 hours, and we will continue to have that in our ICA. But for you to get to a 5th doc delay, that means you've delivered 5 contracts after 10 days. In a calendar year.
Hey, Melissa.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if on our checklist, our document checklist, if maybe the admins could go ahead and shade the ones that have to be in within 72 hours. May help.
I can ask somebody to do that, but you should know which ones they are anyway. I mean, they're the
right,
but I can ask. That's not bad. It should go all the way across. They're very specific documents, but yeah, I can ask that. Okay, great idea. Okay, I'm going to move on to advertising unless anybody has any questions on that other stuff. Because there are other areas that this progressive disciplinary action comes into play. And to me, I think advertising is going to be the biggest area because I think that it's not going to be us finding it. It's going to be turned into the department and we're going to be notified. If the department is notifying us that you've had an error in advertising, that is an automatic #1 strike, right? And I think about it. What is the one thing you do over and over and over and over again that is visible by so many people, right? Can you get to 5 errors? You sure can. So to me, that's why I'm going to talk about advertising today. So, again, they did updated standards, and this is especially regarding digital presence and broker visibility. So, and I did this via AI, folks, but I did review these, by the way, but that's why the little comments are there. That's where they pulled this from. I already knew the dates and stuff. So the core requirements, do you need a cord? They have power right over there. Okay. So the core requirements, #1, you must show what brokerage you work for. And I think this is especially critical if you have a team name that is like such and such group or such and such team. It must prominently display the legal name or the registered DBA. What is our company name, folks? Realty One Group. Is it Realty One Group Paradise Valley or Realty One Group PV? Nope. You must have Realty One Group on your advertising, both in social media and print. It must be visible, okay? A little tip for you guys. If you use the graphic with the little 1 circle up front that then has Realty One Group listed next to it, the height that 1 dot or the button, right, takes up requires the height of that to be a lot larger. If you get rid of the little circle, then you can increase the size of the Realty One Group without getting that height loss. I've got a graphic designer over here sitting here nodding at me. This is a huge thing. If you have a little bit of space and you're having trouble making Realty One Group equal to or prominently visible, lose the circle, okay? You can then adjust the size of the Realty One Group so it is similar or larger without taking up quite as much space on your page.
It's already in the kit.
Yeah, you have it in the kit. They're both there. Yeah.
Can you go over the fact that you cannot use the One Lux all by itself?
You cannot use the One Lux logo. For those of you that are One Lux agents, unfortunately in Arizona, first of all, there is no Realty One Group International in Arizona. The company name is Realty One Group, and you must have Realty One Group visible with that X. You cannot just use the X by itself, just like you can't use the circular 1 by itself. These are Arizona specific. That does not apply in other states and other countries. They use it this way and seem to have no issues. So you are very correct. This is a huge problem, and one of our teams was just reprimanded for it on the side. It did not come directly from the department, but they got warned about that. So please know that. Again, Realty One Group must be visible. Okay. For those that have not looked at your social media and your websites, there is a no scrolling rule now. The broker's name must be visible on every page without needing to scroll down. Back in the day, you used to be able to scroll, and as long as the bottom showed Realty One Group someplace down there, everybody was fine. Nope, not anymore. Okay. Maybe people just abide by it. Okay. Full name. So again, this is Realty One Group. And again, we cannot use PV and you cannot use Paradise Valley because we're not a franchise. Our name is Realty One Group. Okay. You are welcome if on your cards or something like that, you want to put serving Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Phoenix, or North Phoenix. That's fine. You know, but I would not be putting Realty One Group with Paradise Valley after it. Certainly do not put PV after it. That is a problem. Okay. Truthful representation, licensees must ensure all claims are accurate and do not create misleading impressions. I would say using AI, please, folks, read what comes up from AI and make sure the lovely words that it fills in are accurate and not misleading at all. Some of the words that I know are really big for that. You cannot or should not be using the word new. And here's the reason. Even if it is a brand new home, right? Those appliances were put in a month ago. Whether they've been used or not, they are no longer new. The air conditioner was put in 2 months ago. It is not new, okay? Put in, installed, March 2026. There you go, right? But don't use the word new. New means it literally is being unwrapped this moment. And if you put that in an MLS description or on a flyer, by the time the public is seeing that, it is not new. That is a word long since that we've been told, do not use that word, okay? So if you've got questions about anything else, please give me a call and I'll try to go over those with you. Renderings. If an image is an artist's rendering or includes property not actually for sale, this must be explicitly disclosed. I would take it a step further. If you are using AI to generate photos on your listing to decorate the house and show furnishings, it must say either AI generated or virtual images, okay? So that they see those. You must have those on there. Now, most of the companies we use to do that, do post that. There are, if you have not seen what Canva, if you have professional Canva, Canva has an overlay now for AI furnishings that is incredible. I think it's $60 a year. You can do furnishings to your heart's content, and it is unbelievable in like half an hour. But you have to make sure it says virtual staging. Okay, that's on you. Make sure you're doing that.
Hey, Melissa, quick question
Yes.
about that.
Uh-huh.
If you're virtually staging a property, do you also have to have the picture of it prior to being virtually staged in the listing as well?
I would if you can. That makes the most sense that they can see the comparison. I
Okay.
don't
I
know
wasn't
that
sure if it
that's a
was needed.
rule.
Okay, I
Huh?
wasn't sure if it was a rule.
I would do it only because what happens is people go there, well, that's not what it looked like. Well, because they're looking at the furniture. Like it didn't change the walls of the floor, but you put a red sofa in there and everybody's looking at the red sofa. It's like, well, okay, it's the same room. So I would be doing that. I would recommend you do that. But I don't know that it's actually required. Okay.
Not according
Yeah, I don't.
in that bottom that it's virtual stage or AI.
Yeah, you need to have the virtually staged, and that implies that it's, not there. I like having the two. I recommend it, but I don't think it's required by AirMLS. This is an odd one, and this is old school. If you just got your license, you may have remembered this, but you cannot use the term acre unless it actually refers to more than 43,560 square feet, so that you make sure that you're not saying, I've seen people say almost an acre, right? So, but you have to make sure that you're not saying an acre if it's not actually that size.
What about approx?
Approximately, I probably would say almost and not approximately, or,
Yeah.
put the size. So, this has become a little confusing. Some people, I'm not sure why they don't understand this. If the licensee is advertising their own property, including an LLC or a trust that they control, the ad must include the words owner agent. Now, if the seller is the seller is also an agent, even if they're not the listing agent, I usually also put owner agent, even though it's not, and just say owner is a licensed agent, because that still has to go in the offer, right? So you need that disclosed anyway. But if you have a sign up, you have to have an owner agent sign writer underneath that sign. It must be visible to the public. So if there's a sign out there, you've got to have the owner agent disclosure out there.
And Melissa, that's only for active agents, right? Like if I have a seller who gave up their license last year, do I have to mark it?
Well, so if their license is at the Department of Real Estate,
In terminated status.
if it's terminated, no,
Okay,
they're done.
thank you.
But if it's just sitting at the department, it's still an owner agent, right? Because it is it's inactive at the department, but you're
Right.
still an owner agent. You don't lose that knowledge, right? If
Right.
they've terminated their license, they are no longer practicing, they're done. That's something different, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Permission to advertise. A licensee must secure written consent from a property owner before placing a sign or advertising their property, right? What is that document?
Listing contract.
The listing contract, right? In the listing contract, it grants you, Realty One Group, us, the right to advertise that property, right? And that's where you've got to have a sign that says Realty One Group on it. If you're doing, yeah, go ahead. Somebody have a question? Nope.
Do you ever see that they're gonna have us make a PDF and have them sign it in the near future? Because we're always changing the ads, trying to refresh it and put it out
No.
there.
No, that the broker's having to sign off on all those, no.
Seller.
The seller, no. But you know, I think with what becomes the problem I see is that our clients, the sellers, want us to put all sorts of stuff in the descriptions because they go use ChatGPT and come up with all sorts of stuff. And the only problem is they don't know these advertising requirements, right? Well, it's almost an acre. We can put it's an acre. No, we can't. That's why you need to know these things, okay? And they're like, oh, just put ROG. No, you can't put ROG. You have to have Realty One Group. The public doesn't know what ROG means. Okay. Let's see on the bottom. So this is one of the biggest ones that came in right with all the social media. And that if you're sending out not just social media, but sending out a postcard talking about listings in the area that are active and they're not your listings or Realty One Group listings, you have to put the listing broker's name visible that this is compliments of RE/MAX, compliments of HomeSmart, you know, it has to have that in there. And I think that's one of the biggest ones that people did not do and were not doing, was showing that those listings were not their listings that sold. Recent sales. Yeah, well, they were not your property. You need to show, right? So displaying that in a clear and prominent. So let's talk about digital and social media specifics. This is the one that I think is the hardest, right? The employing broker's name must be stated in the post or profile, okay? There are ways that you can do a link, or you can do, what's the other one called?
Hashtag.
Well, you can do a hashtag, but you can do a GPS, what's it called, where you, a drop, like that you can show that where that is, and that will come up showing that it's Realty One Group. Okay.
Yeah.
So that isn't a possibility. But you've got to have somewhere that employing broker name Realty One Group is visible on this stuff. So please, and I just need, if you're going to do a whole bunch of campaigns, bring me what the campaign looks like so I can see it. And then I don't need to see every time you change 5 words. I just make sure the components are there, right? And that they stay there. So video content, the information has to be both at the beginning and the end. Okay. So it doesn't have to be all the way through, but it has to be at the beginning and the end. AI assisted marketing, right? They're subject to the same disclosure and accuracy regulations as traditional media. This is where we get caught. Our sellers and owners are like, this is what ChatGPT says. This is what I want to say. It's like, yeah, you don't exactly have an Arizona room. You have a porch. It's not the same thing, right? Can't say that's an Arizona room, right? So it starts describing things and the seller thinks, I love that description. Well, let's contain that a little bit. Okay. So you need to work on that. So this has prohibitive practices. Blind ads, they don't identify both the licensee and the brokerage. Your name and the company name must be visible, right? Free services. This is what got us all into trouble, folks. So please do not say you're offering free services. Use that there's no obligation to receive this, right? No obligation, market analysis, right? You can obtain this at no cost to you. That's fine, but I really wouldn't use that. Just say that you'll do that. Now, here's the question. So if it's no obligation and you know flat out the person that's talking to you already has a realtor, they've already signed an agreement or they're going to go forward with that agreement, and they say, yeah, but Melissa, could you just do a market analysis for me? What's the answer? Nope. Why?
Because they don't have.
They don't have agency with me, but I have no chance at getting the job. So I then am doing something for their no obligation isn't even a possibility because there's no opportunity. Right now, if somebody says I'm meeting with several agents, will you create a market report? Absolutely. Because I'd like the opportunity to meet with you and discuss this. But if you've already hired somebody, I'm not giving you my expertise for free with no opportunity to have, you know, a chance at the table, right? And be careful of that. There are people out there that just will take advantage of you. No, sorry. Congratulations that you've got an agent. If things don't work out, please give me a call. See ya. Right? Don't throw your time and effort at something that's already dead. All right. So, unlicensed assistants. So if somehow you're doing something that says somebody else is going to be there, you have to disclose that they're unlicensed. If you've got flyers and somebody is hosting that open house, hopefully with you, but if they're there greeting people at the door, it has to be disclosed that they're unlicensed. Because there are a lot of things that they cannot do. And it needs to be clear why they're not answering the questions the client's asking because they can't. Right?
I have a question.
Yep.
Not unlicensed, but referring agent that's no longer an active agent with Realty One, are they allowed to help at an open house? Because I'm having that question asked a lot.
Okay, so the question is not unlicensed assistants, but someone, so are they under our referral program?
Yes.
The question was, can a referral agent with Realty One Group AZ sit at an open house? I will double check that. My guess is no, because they're not allowed to create agency.
So what if they're just assisting at it? With
Well-
the active agent?
Well, but again, the problem is, are they going to trip into being implied agency? Because that's what they're used to doing. So think about it. A referral agent is allowed to market themselves as, you know, still a licensed agent. They are a licensed agent, but they cannot pull comps. They cannot look up anything. All they can do is, if you will, get the client to the point of being ready to work with an agent and then pass them off to an agent, right? They can't talk about properties. And I think the problem would be, I would be afraid that they would start doing that. And that's the challenge. But I will double check on that. That's a really great question. We have a lot of agents that have switched over to referral agents. And gosh, if they could sit open houses, even just to be a second body there with some folks, that would be fantastic. So, but I don't know. Okay. Any other questions on advertising? I've got about just 8 minutes left. I'm briefly going to talk about Finson because this has come up, and you please take a class, but I'm just going to give a quick overview, right? This office is probably one of the #1 cash offices in the Valley. We do so many deals that are cash based. So Finson started this month. If you have a cash buyer or a trust or an LLC, or if you're the listing agent and the buyer is cash, trust, or an LLC, right? There are certain transactions that may require additional reporting under the FinCEN guidelines. Rock Title has already done one class. We're going to check with them to see when the next one is. So here are the key pieces, right? Is the property residential? Is it a single family or 1 to 4 unit property, condo, vacant land intended for residential development, as well as commercial properties that include residential? So the key is residential, right? Is the purchase all cash? Now, this is the thing that is kind of interesting. This could include contract for deed arrangements or private financing. So think about hard money loans, that's private financing, right? So if one of those things also applies, then the question is the buyer purchasing by themselves? Because if it's Melissa Schwartz with cash, I'm fine. But if it's the Melissa Schwartz Family Trust, I'm not so fine, right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. If it's a business entity, meaning an LLC, that I've gone into and, you know, somebody else has gone into with me and we've got a little LLC, let's see what's going on, right? Then you've got an issue, right? So if the answer is yes to all of the above, extra documentation will be required from the buyers and sellers prior to closing. Why is this important for you to know about? This is not under the Department of Real Estate. This is a Treasury Department issue. But why do you need to know about this?
They want to the piece.
You need to know about this to set expectations with your clients. If you have a buyer that falls under these parameters, before you go write a contract, you better red flag it and say, are you aware that March 1st, FinCEN went into effect from the Department of Treasury? You are going to have to answer a lot of extra questions. Are you prepared to do that?
I think I heard it was 150 questions.
Well, I think it's 150 questions, but I think they're split between whether or not it is a trust, a business entity, you know, where are you falling under those things? And those have different questions around them. Does that make sense?
150 questions?
Well, I think there are a total of 150 questions.
Wow. Okay.
But they're split depending on what type of entity
Gotcha.
the buyer is. Okay. So, and possibly what type of financing it is. I'm not sure. And I have not seen any of the questions. Rock Title has hired a third-party company, and their system is online. So if you check the box for how you're purchasing this, the specific questions for that will come up and they only have to answer those. If you're working with a company that's doing it on paper, you have to answer every single question because you have to go through and say, no, 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 no on the 50 or 60 that don't apply to you. Because unless maybe if you check the box on the top, maybe you're able to cross through all of them. But my understanding was the paper version, you still had to respond to everything. So if you use a company that's using this electronic version, you click that you're a trust, then everything for private, you know, for a business entity disappears. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you need to set those expectations, right? You get under contract and all of a sudden Title's calling them saying, yeah, I need you to come in deal with these questions, and they're like, what the hell? Why didn't I know about this? Like, how many times have you had a trust and you're dealing with the family members and they're like, oh, I don't know where that, update to the trust went to? Well, you better find it.
Or you have that client that switches it, me, right in the middle.
Oh yeah, or the client that switches in the middle from a person to a trust. Oh, yeah, we're putting this in our trust. Whoa, hold on a minute. May want to wait a second, because you got to have all your ducks in a row if you're doing that.
Can you ask them to do it after the fact? I mean, I'm just saying, can't you do a quick claim after, like, people do that?
You can, and they're going to have to do all that paperwork after the fact, because if it transfers property, that transfer is triggering the FinCEN. Because I imagine money laundering is money laundering. They don't want a quick switch. They're going to track that, because if they're trying to move the money and not just the name, that's what FinCEN is looking for. That's what the Treasury is looking for, is money laundering, right? That somebody's put it under an LLC or trust and then moving it someplace else so they can get it into a property and then somehow quick claim it to somebody else and then blah, 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 right?
Different than Melissa Schwartz, Caitlin Charlton, Melissa Schwartz. I mean, that's not.
I understand.
You could do that switch after the fact.
Yes.
But that's between them and
And
that,
title,
and
or-
title, who's gonna hire that third party. It's a document serving company.
Yeah, who might be handling that? And do you even have to do it if there's no money exchanging hands?
You
But-
did. I found that out.
So you do have to do it even if it's no money exchanging hands. So I think FinCEN is going to apply. I think they're trying to track the property, which now has the money. That's where the money went. So, okay, I think that's the last question.
Cause I have a client right now,
For timing.
a past client that bought the house. They put it in their family trust right in the middle of it, way before this. They ended up going from the family trust. They bought the house for their son. The son is opening up his own LLC, so they want to transfer that. I'm like, here, call them.
Yeah.
So
Somebody else deal with this.
Pioneer Title put them in touch with a third party document serving company, and they're having to do the whole FinCEN. Because it's going from a family trust to an LLC, even though it's family.
Yeah. So I would expect that's what we're going to see. But to me, I want to make sure you guys know you need to know enough about this to alert your clients so that they are not blindsided, right? And so to your point earlier, somebody wants to change in the middle of it, you need to say, that's fine. Please understand you will be under FinCEN rules and have to answer a bunch of questions. Be prepared for that. And they're like, well, what's that? Well, let me explain, and I don't know what the questions are because I haven't bought or sold a home that, falls under this. So, but I think if you take one of the classes, they'll, hopefully they have some of those questions there, but they may not. They may not have that list of questions out there. Who knows what the Treasury has hidden? So, okay. Any other questions, folks?
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, regarding that ABA documentation that we spoke
Yep.
about earlier. So I know if you're putting up your listing, you want to put that general ABA into your documents. But let's say you're with a buyer and you're going to put an offer in on a property that is not represented by ROG, but a different brokerage. Are we
Yep.
expected to ask them for their ABA at this time as well to submit that offer, or do we not do that because they're not our brokerage?
I would say keep your eyes out. I would be looking in the doc tab to see if it's there. I think once people realize that we've gone to ARMLS and gotten permission to put ours up there, they're going to be modifying theirs and putting theirs up there. Supposedly we did have to change something on ours. I still haven't figured out what it was. But we did have to get ARMLS permission to put it in there. So, but until that happens, do you have to ask? No. Can you ask? Of course you can. Hey, do you by any chance have your ABA? So we're writing an offer. I mean, look, it will be no surprise to me that this will be oh, oops, we missed this and throw it in there. But the problem is throwing it in there afterwards doesn't really matter because it doesn't comply with the rule. The rule was that the buyer saw it before they wrote the offer. Are we all going to scramble and try and throw them in our files? Yep. And I bet a bunch of people are going to send them to people. Hey, just want to make sure your buyer got this. Okay. We already sent the offer over. Yep, we got it. Thanks. Here, buyer. Here you go.
It's like all the other documents that they forget to upload. We're always tracking it down just so we can submit the offer.
Right. Lead-based, I mean, the one I'm laughing at, right? We can't get lead-based paint sent with our documents, right? It's one that has like, could have as much as a $10,000 fine, and we can't get agents to do that correctly. So do I really expect the ABA from every other company to be delivered prior to our writing offers? No. But as a buyer's agent, yes. If you're talking to the other agent, I think anytime you're talking to an agent today, hey, do you have your ABA? Send it over. I mean, it's just going to be a lot of added paperwork.
But this is a requirement for all the brokerages, not just ours to do.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's what we went over. That was our first comment.
About it on our meeting too.
Yes. Yeah, it's so, yeah, let me make sure you understand. There is an ABA MLS only that is at the very top of page 1. The ABA for your clients to sign is now at the top of page 2. There are 2 ABAs. You have to get your clients to sign the one with signature lines. The other one is under the listing scenario that you have to post it in the MLS, okay? And
It
it-
has to be called a specific name, that MLSO.
MLS only. Well, I did the abbreviation, but it's MLS only ABA. Yes. So I would recommend that. And again, if you got here late, with that new document, anyone that has a current listing, you can upload that now without going to your clients. If anybody missed that comment, you do not need the seller to sign a sold change form or a listing contract addendum to add the language to the listing or to put that in there. And for those taking listings, that new language needs to be in all your new listings. So you need to add that to your listings in the private remarks. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? No? All right. Yeah, who is wearing green? I can't see anybody's picture. All right, I'm gonna stop recording. I'm wearing green today. Look, I wore green. I'm not wearing Realty Liner.